Welcome to the Self-Love Summit. I'm your host, Mia Saenz, and with me this segment is Eric Rios. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you very much. Hi, Mia. How are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
Good. Just dandy. Just fine. Just great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Eric is the head of the Inner Stillness Project, which is about meditating and balancing your alignment, your core. And that's truly what self-love is all about, is being in alignment with the divine so you can raise your inner child and bring clarity and love to your life, which is what the Self-Love Summit is all about. So I'm very excited that he's here with us. So thank you, Eric.
Oh, you're very welcome, and thank you for having me. I'm delighted.
I'm glad. Thank you. Can you share your story with the viewers of how you got to where you are today? It could start in the crib. It could start when you're 19. Whatever you think is pertinent for people to understand the growth path that we each take. Everybody always shares their stories on my shows so that others can dream, believe, create, and understand that they too can accomplish their dreams.
Sure thing. My story began back in 1997 when I hit an emotional roller coaster. I guess you can say I hit rock bottom. Back then when I was growing up, I realized not too long ago actually in having a conversation with a friend of mine, I've always was the thinking type. I was a big thinker, always in my head. I couldn't get in my head. And I realized that not too long ago in conversing with a friend of mine. So that was the beginning trouble. Back in 1997, an event happened to me that really got me stuck in my head. And it sent me spiraling down to, like I said earlier, like rock bottom. And I was in a state of depression. I was in a state of continuous drug use. And the two actually, didn't make a really pretty picture for me. And as a matter of fact, I even thought of suicide at that time. Luckily, I didn't take it that far. But one day, as the story goes, I was walking into my gym, and all of a sudden a word popped into my mind, seemingly out of nowhere. And the word that popped into my mind was yoga. And at the time, I didn't know what it was. But it calmed me. It had this effect on me that for just a couple of seconds, it ended up taking my feelings of anxiety away. And I said to myself, well, what was that? What is it? I said, and so I said it again in my mind, and this peace came over me, and I'm like, well, what the heck? And so after my gym routine, I quickly rushed home. Internet business just sort of was taken off then, and I went online and did some research, found a yoga that attracted my attention. It was called Kripalu Yoga, and that's where my journey started. Shortly thereafter, I started to pick up meditation practice. And it was in the meditation practice that actually was the key element in my own recovery as far as my state of depression and the negative feelings and just lack of joy. It was truly the key element that allowed me to get to my core, where all these things seem to be, and allowed me to slowly but surely dissolve all of it, and to be able to uncover the thing that we want to talk about here today, which is all the positive qualities that are inherent to us. But so I got to a point when finally I said, hey, you know what? I want to learn more about it. So I got certified to teach yoga, and I took a lot of intensives. I went from Kripalu to Kriya Yoga to Vipassana meditation and lots of things in between, because my curiosity just got the best of me. And I really wanted to know what our true potential as human beings could ultimately be. And in the meantime, I then discovered a couple of things on my own. I came up with my own program, and even that was a trip on its own. At the beginning, when I started my program, I kind of noticed that the benefits of getting to your core could benefit athletes. So at the beginning, I was training athletes, and it had no spiritual tone at all. I realized when you can get rid of anxiety, what you're left with is great on the track, great on the basketball court, and at the beginning was geared towards them only. And it was only after continued practice that I realized the deepness and the spiritual aspect of ourselves. And then, so here I am today.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I love that you talk about getting to our core, because truly that's where it is. People are like, well, where's my core? It's really that invisible line that goes from really your head down through your heart, down your body. That's your core. It's within you. It's your soul. Your soul, I always say, well, I believe the soul is housed right behind the heart. It's connected that way. So that's what our core is. That, and then another aspect of our core is when we silence ourselves and we are in meditation, we hear our not still small voice, but we hear our inner voice. And that's our core. That's our being. That's our connection to the divine. And so also I think of it, and I'm not sure why I'm saying this now, but I also think of our core as when we are connected to the divine, that it shoots like out of the top of our head, out of our chakra, because that's also when we meditate or allow in, pray for our guides and stuff, that's where they come, or at least that's where mine come. And some people, I literally feel them and see them going right into me, so that I'm a conduit. I'm a vessel for the divine. I'm not here actually, well, I am here talking to you all, but I also do this before so that it moves smoothly. Okay, so now back on to our guest, our guest expert.
It's okay. When you're speaking about this energy, this divine, this energetic quality of the divine, that it's hard to, when you're explaining the way you're explaining it about it coming out. You can't keep that in. That energy, that divine energy, just wants to. At first it's the contact of that energy, but then after a while, after continued sitting in it and really becoming acquainted with that energy, it's going to come out, and people are going to feel it, right. And that's just how the process goes. If it's not there to be shared, what's the whole point? What's the whole use? So I agree with you 100%.
When I was on the beginning process, I've always been metaphysical and spiritual since I was little. I used to talk to God. I had a rough childhood. And I used to talk to God when I was locked in the closet after getting beaten or something. And I would say, Father, Mother, I know that these are not them. That lady's crazy. I mean, literally, well, as I got older, I remember using those words. And I would say, I know you're my true Father, Mother. And I would start to have solace in the connection to the divine. And I knew it wasn't somebody in a chair with a staff like religion portrays. It's the energy, the vastness is everywhere and all. And when I first came back around out of like what I call my walking coma of 10 years, I was able to, when I got in touch with who I was and started to know who I was able to magnetically attract people to me. And that was the most profound experience of my life. We are so much more connective, energetic, magnetic than anyone, unless you've experienced this, knows. I used to have friends watch me do it. I'm like, watch, they're going to ram right into me almost as I walk past them. And they'd watch and they'd just go, whoa.
Hey, Mia, may I take the time to say I think I attracted you?
Yes, you did. You did.
And
we all attract. And viewers, we're attracting you. You're attracting us.
That's exactly right.
It's beautiful.
Right. That's exactly right.
It's energy that flows out, and it's lovely. Now, Eric is going to share with us one of the things that I asked Eric what he'd like to talk about is developing and he sent me these, developing the ability to tap into one's true nature, which is sort of like what we were talking about, silence and space within us to our core. And so tapping in is very, very important, and a lot of times that it comes through learning how to still yourself through meditation. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, take it away, baby.
Take it away. Here I go. Yes, this is, I just ooze this stuff. Yeah, I really
It's beautiful,
do.
yeah.
I'm very passionate about it. Yeah. And the thing of it is, it just gets better and better. You know, first thing I would like to say, yeah, I mean, really, honestly, the only way to get to the core of who you are is by stilling the mind and stilling the body, okay? And that's really, really hard to do, particularly with someone who's full of tension. And you already know if there's tension in the mind, it affects the body, and if there's tension in the body, it affects the mind, and it's just like this connection that's unbroken and it's vicious. And what it takes is, it's either going to be concentration through meditation or physical exercise to release the tension. I say do both. So my program is really about stretching the body using your usual techniques of deep breathing and humming and stretching, very simple stuff. And it's getting into your core through conscious awareness. And one of the key things that I found, one of the easiest ways to know whether you're experiencing your core or not, and you have to do this when you're not rested against the back of a chair or anything like that. But the core is when you feel completely tensionless. Just space. That's it. That's where the journey really starts. Because once you start to feel tensionless and feel like silence in space, that there is when you start to feel all the positive qualities. You know, I wasn't going to do this, but I think I'm going to have to do it anyway.
Is it an experiential?
It's a picture. It's a diagram that explains the whole process. And I wasn't going to do this, but I think I will. I don't know if you can see this.
Yes.
Okay. What I say is, when we're born, we're that little center in that little white center, and that has all the pure qualities of who we really are: love, power, abundance, everything positive you can imagine. However, there starts to form layers around ourselves through all the conditioning and all the drama and everything you can under the sun that you can imagine that affects our being. And then these wiggly lines are nothing but tension. So this is life happening. Some people have it better than others, obviously. But it starts to hide this. And the whole idea behind meditation is doing a reversal, breaking through the tension, breaking through the onion, breaking through the layers, and going back to your center, going back to your core, sitting in there, and being reacquainted consciously, and just sort of remembering and experiencing those original qualities that we were.
Yeah.
And we are.
And that we are.
And we are.
Yes. The remembering, and I loved how you also wrote that as one of the things that we would talk about. I love the remembering because it's always with us, and as you said, life gets in the way of that pure remembering of who we've been, everything. I've expressed before, I can't even remember if it's on the Summit or one of my web TV shows, but I've probably done now in a year 70 shows, so I can't remember where it was mentioned, but
What it said?
Yeah. What was most magnificent before I realized that we have this ability, and this concept of, or the truth about remembering has been in full force universally. I mean, it's always been there, but many of us are now talking about it for the last year. And so we never forget. It's always there. But what I've done before through meditation in the last 5 years since I popped out and became the Passion Muse is a couple years ago I wanted to paint. And I thought, well, you don't know how to paint. And I thought, oh, yes, I do. So I went into meditation, and I discovered what it was like to be a painter. I have been before. And so I went to the art store and I bought a 48 by 48 canvas. I don't start small on anything. And I told the guy exactly what I wanted to do, the strokes, the method. And so we started talking further, and he helped me buy exactly what I needed. And he said, how long have you been painting? And I said, this is my first project. And so I went home and I, began doing my creativeness. And I did that when I taught myself to draw, too. I went into meditation, I realized everything is a line or a circle. So I can draw anything. You can't tell me you can't tell me I can't. And people have said, where did you go to art school? And I laugh. I didn't. I taught myself. So we can remember when we still ourselves, like you were saying, and go within to our core. That you and I have talked about meditation before recently, about there's like a vibration level within our body that we can also feel it with people that we're connected to magnetically outside of meditation. But it's that amazing rhythm that we have as humans. We know all. We just have to silence and listen, and the answers come.
I want to make tons of notes while you're speaking, because you're hitting some really great topics there. First thing I want to say real quickly is that, the guy asked you, well, where did you take classes? I've always said to people, we have all these abilities. We have these. They're innate. They're innate in us, and they're in there. They're in. It makes me laugh. Like, for example, when someone says, "I want to learn how to speak in public."
Just talk.
You already know how to speak in public,
yes.
Or those qualities already in us. It's all the conditionings that come along the way that's muddied everything up, and people don't realize what qualities they have and what skills and what abilities they have. The second one I wanted to talk about was that energy you're speaking about when you go into that space. Have you ever, I don't know if we talked about this in the past, but I had mentioned to you something about body rhythm.
Yes, we did speak about that.
Yeah, the body rhythm, and again, it goes right back to the feeling of the core, and when your body just, when you go into your meditation, and your body starts to, you always notice when the release takes place, and it's in that release that you get all that information, and we always need to remember, where there is energy, there is information. And everything you need to know, what to do next, what to name this title, what to do tomorrow, is all in that space.
When you do Eric's gift, and it gets to the mirror, this is what I've done. I've had clients who can't even look at their face. They freak out. So we start with the eyes, because that's where the soul comes shining through. Look at the shape. Look at the colors. Find something beautiful in there. You don't find that particularly hard for some to go directly into the eyes?
They
have to. If they can't look at their face and their whole being, I send them directly to their eyes.
You're mean.
Because
you're hardcore.
Because I tell them, tell me what the shape is. Write it down. Look at the colors. Look at the flecks. Our eyes are not exactly the same. See the difference between each one. Look at the colors. Aren't they beautiful? Aren't you beautiful? Those colors are yellow, brown, green, perhaps. My eyes change. I have hazel eyes. Sometimes they're dark brown. Sometimes they're golden. When I'm really exuberantly happy, oftentimes they're green. So they're magnificent, Someone's might be blue and green. Somebody's might be yellow and brown. But they don't really know until they actually look. And then they start to pull the mirror over weeks. They start to pull it further and further away. And it's we're not just talking, everybody, about only looking in the mirror. We have other stuff that goes much deeper too, but that is vital. Don't you
Yeah.
think that, to be able to look at yourself
Yeah.
and feel warm instead of, I used to never be able to look at myself in the mirror for about 10 years, from 2000 to, or yeah, okay, so a little less, 2000 to 2009 and a half, 0.5, halfway through that year. And it's amazing because I didn't know what I looked like. So I was told by a friend, a spiritual friend, to put my picture on my desktop. And literally I was writing a book that was published that year, and I'm stopping to look at myself, closing everything down, saying, wow, that woman is actually attractive. Who is she? I thought I was like this ugly creature, I didn't know myself. I didn't allow myself. That was the walking coma I mentioned. So we can step outside of the myths, the lies that aren't really there, that aren't really there. It's stepping outside of what we're told into who we truly are.
Truly, what they truly are, yeah.
Yes. So let's hear about your gift. I'm so sorry. This was fun. Then I'm like, woo!
I know, we've been just talking forever and forever and forever. The mirror work, I just want to real quickly add on to what you were saying about the mirror work. There have been plenty of times when I've had clients look into the mirror at the beginning and then look again after, and then say, wow, I'm beautiful.
Yes.
And it's moments like that just sends goosebumps all over my body.
Yes.
And I've had other clients actually, because all the hurts, all the emotional hurts, and all the tension and all the knots within the body really, really, really affects our perception.
It does.
It really does. And when someone is going through a transition, say like in the 45 minutes that I'm working with someone and they're going through a transition and I have them do a little bit of mirror work, they get a chance to experience shifts that are actually happening and occurring as they're looking into the mirror and looking at their faces. And I get reports where their faces seem to shift. And all that is the perception trying to clear up. Because as they're sitting in meditation with eyes open, if I have them do that kind of thing, then the change starts to take place.
Yes.
And the vision goes in and out, and it just starts to shift, and then eventually see beauty. You see what's really, really, really there. Yeah.
And the more we do this, the more we get to know ourselves, we can shift so fast. People have said, can you always do that, me? And I'm like, well, my story is, Eric, that I went from men paying too much attention to me when I was young, to gaining a ton of weight when I was first married at 18, the first time, so that people would leave me alone. And then I was dying from that, and I had to immediately take charge of my life. I was told I was going to die in 2 years. And that was in 2008. And I was in a wheelchair from an accident. So I had to build my inner core, get my sassiness. I wear high heels where I never did before. I became awake. And people say, well, Mia, are you always like that? Or you're always like that? I'm like, I'm not always like that. I can be walking down the street, glance at myself in a mirror and go, or, in the glass windows and go, oh. And then instantly, within a step or two, I realign myself and I'll look again. I'm like, she's back, because it's who I am inside. It's what I see. And literally I've gone from looking this big to looking, more appropriate, or falsely how I want to think I look. It doesn't matter.
That's right.
As long as I'm happy and care about myself. And I'm sure you've experienced this too. I've had messages from clients like 6 months later. Oh my God. Well, here's one. This is funny. We're talking about mirror work. Oh my God, I was standing in front, this was on Christmas, I was standing in front of the mirror naked. I'm the heaviest I've ever been. I'm so-and-so kilometers, because she's one of my European clients. She said, and I'm beautiful. And I wrote her back, that's right, baby, you're beautiful. Because, really, she's beautiful, whether she's, plump or not. Because our beauty comes from within. Our beauty comes from the divine. And that's what people see. That's the light they see. That's the glow, the attraction.
I want to tell you quickly, and you're absolutely correct on that, and that inner beauty that your client was able to recognize. That's what it's all about, right? Recognizing that inner beauty, no matter what you see on the outside. I'll tell you, I'm going to share something that I think everyone should do. I live in New York City. I went to a restaurant called Dinner in the Dark. Are you familiar?
No, but I'm going to look that up.
Okay. This is, I don't own the restaurant. This is definitely not a plug for the restaurant, but this is a really good lesson on inner beauty. And what it is, it's a restaurant run by blind people. The waiters are blind, everyone's blind, and the place is pitch black. You go inside, you sit at a table, you don't know where you are, you're being led in, you sit down at the table, you're with people you don't know and cannot see. The entire time we're having a conversation with other people at the table. Specifically two who were sitting right next to us. And so all your senses get sharp. Well, not all your senses. Your hearing gets very sharp. And you're listening to these folks. And you're having a conversation with these folks. And I'm sitting there and they're beautiful. They were just beautiful souls. You couldn't see their faces. You couldn't see their bodies. You couldn't see anything. But you can hear them. And you can tell that they were beautiful. They were beautiful. When we were done with our dinner and we walked outside, back into the light, the external was nothing like the internal at all. And if you would only rely on what you see, these people probably would never have been approached by anyone because they could never tell their inner beauty. And it was in that pitch black dining room that you could really get a sense for someone's inner beauty. And it was a great experience.
That's beautiful. It's going totally beyond what like you're saying, what the surface is. People are so magnificent. You can fall deeply, madly in love with somebody through letters, that you've never met before, because if you want to be honest and you can sense and feel that connection. Of course you have to have some depth as a human being, in our human state, to understand that or to want that. But yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
The real lesson here, or the real question here, is: did those two people that I saw having dinner with us, do they know their inner beauty? And I wish I would have shared that with them, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Well, next time you will.
I totally will, because that's a really neat experience to have, dinner in the dark.
Yeah, I love that. That's very cool. Did you use your hands a lot?
Not only that, but I can't believe I left there unscathed with no messes on me. I think mindfulness plays a part in that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Okay, so I interrupted you when you were telling us about your gift. So I'm going to let you go back to that, because this is an exciting conversation, so I'm getting a little bubbly. So
yeah, me too. It's okay. I think we're kindred spirits. Yes. The gift is simple. It's a really miniature version of the ISP, even though ISP, Inner Stillness, we call it Inner Stillness 2.0, has evolved since the free product was actually made a few months ago. But like I said to you, the idea behind these exercises, as a matter of fact, I go directly for mirror work in this particular exercise. And what I do is I'm allowing the individual to stay present. It's a mix of training yourself to remain present by looking. So, as you already know, by looking, you keep the mind from going to past or future, staying present. And as the time goes by, the body starts to relax, the body starts to chill out, and the tension slowly and surely starts to dissolve and go away, but only by the technique of looking into the mirror and keeping the mind still by keeping focus at what you're seeing in front of you.
Interesting, yeah. That's beautiful. Great. That's wonderful. So we're almost out of time.
Okay, already?
I know things go very, very fast. So before we close off, I wanted to ask you. So the reconnection through the sense of memory, we did talk about that a little bit, but what would you like to say about that before closing?
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so very much for bringing that back up. And it's very exciting because for a long time, sitting in the silence and space is one thing, but as you're experiencing the silence and space, which we all can agree now is your true nature, what really is special is that we have the ability to recognize the experience. So what I'm saying is that the next time that your viewers are able to get into silence and space, my advice to them is to consciously recognize that space. And when I say recognize, I'm talking about in the same way that you would recognize a friend in a crowd, that kind of mindset. You recognize the silence and space. First, you need to get stabilized in the recognition. Okay? That might take one 15, 20-minute sit, but it takes a while to get firmly established in the recognition. And what I have found is that once you are grounded in the recognition of who you are, the silence and space, that recognition turns into a memory. It gets etched into your consciousness, into your awareness. Once it gets to that level, you will experience leaps and bounds as far as being able to not be so mad all the time, not be so jealous all the time, not be so angst all the time, not be so fearful all the time, because the memory of that recognition stays with you. And so what happens is, and this is really bad for business, but I really don't care, and this is very important for me to say, is that my goal has always been to turn practice into no practice. Because we are always about doing, practice, doing, practice. And I will tell you this, that once you're firmly established in your recognition, and that turns into a memory, will realize and come to a point that you'll need less practice, and less practice, and less practice. I call this an Inner Stillness 2.0 7-minute shift, because at the beginning, it might take an hour. Next day, it might take another 30 minutes. But the whole goal is to get this experience memorized, etched into your consciousness, so that you can spend less and less time in meditation and more time living your life and being free from being a peacemaker to just becoming peace itself.
It's beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you. One last message before we sign off. Is there anything else you just want to say to the listeners?
Your core, that thing that you truly are, I can write you a long list of those things. We're not broken. We're not broken. We don't have to live a life of fixing this and fixing that and how do I, fix. We can take 12 different things that we're trying to fix, and instead of fishing for one fish, one at a time, just like you would try to fix one problem at a time, why don't we just sit in meditation, experience our core? That way you can fish with one big net, and you can dissolve all the problems by just experiencing the silence and space, your inherent nature.
Lovely. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure having you on.
Yes, thank you for having me on. The pleasure was all mine.
Thank you. And we'll see you, audience, next segment. Bye.
Bye-bye.